Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up, I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians or choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes this day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Now if I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Well, hello everyone. How are you doing? I hope you are doing well. It's the weekend, so I'm doing better, but actually I've got an awful lot to do, but we're gonna get right into it. Welcome everyone who's here. And of course, if you have any questions, and hello, both JJ and a name that desperately needs vowels. Oh my God, I just realized, like, I'm just full of busyness between this shirt and that background. It's like a mushroom trip, man. Okay, well, we're gonna get on to the LNC, and I got a piece of glitter, like in a spot I don't like. It's like, I'm sorry, my glitter is coming out really weird. I just look like Disco Mama. Okay, so we're gonna get into the LNC stuff, but before we do, I've got a couple announcements. First of all, need to do sponsorships. So, and I know some people have picked up this book. I would love to hear what you thought. It's a children's book that teaches valuable life lessons. It came out during COVID. If you read it with that eye, you'll understand like the author's original impetus, and that is that life is more than biological life, and it teaches children, you know, to aim for a life well lived. You know, you can be perfectly safe, or you can be free, or you can be fulfilled. But anyway, it's a really good children's book. I would highly recommend it. It's The Tale of Two Brothers by Sean Dempsey. You can get it on Amazon and also at tale2brothers.com. And thank you so much, Sean, for being a sponsor of the show. And anyway, just so you know, I haven't mentioned this in a while, but how do you get to be a sponsor of the show? The top patrons in my patron tier, which is my $50 a month patrons, they get a bunch of ad placements. There's also perks like a t-shirt out of my store, my eternal gratefulness, keeping this thing going. But yeah, if you're interested in sponsoring, you get mentioned, excuse me, about twice a week. And yeah, and that's I think a reasonable price, and you get some other perks, including the regular patron perks. So now that I'm talking about my Patreon, patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty. Excuse me. I do have some alcohol though, so I got something caught in my throat. I also have a subscribe star. People have asked me because, you know, some people don't want to use Patreon. I understand, you know, some of the problems, but it is what's works best for me. But in the low bar of this video, when I stick it over on YouTube, there is my subscribe star link. Subscribe star, the tech just isn't there, and it only allows you to put one level of sponsorship. So that's the most popular level of sponsorship, which is $5 a month. That's over at Subscribe Star. But since we're on Twitch, I'd like to let you all know, if you have an Amazon Prime subscription with Amazon, obviously, you may not know, but you get like a free gift subscription each month that you can gift to the Twitch streamer of your choice. So I've had quite a few people do that. I super appreciate it. It helps you support me, and it doesn't cost you a damn thing. You know, take Jeff Bezos's money, give it to me. So he don't make more. Well, actually, the penis-shaped rocket ships to space were cool, okay? That's mega, you know, maybe you're compensating for something, but okay. Yeah, so yeah, give me some of Jeff Bezos's money by using your Prime subscription. And I see Chuck Moulton is here. Chuck's the one who turned me on to that, so I'm very grateful, Chuck. It's worked out very well for me, and I've been enjoying Twitch very much. But the other thing I wanted to let you guys know, and we are going to be reading an article that I wrote on my Substack. I have a Substack now, and it's free. It's not a paid Substack. If I get enough users, there might be premium content there. But a lot of my little Substack articles, I'm going to be doing shows on as well. But one of them is going to be relevant to today and the issues facing the LNC. So I'm not sure what the link is. I'm not that used to Substack yet, but if you just look up Karen Ann Harlos, and the name of the Substack is Pink Flame of Liberty. So go check it out. And anything else I wanted to pimp? Yes, my town council run. If you feel like supporting a Libertarian candidate that's bold and pink, and is going to get the word out. Karen, C-A-R-Y-N, the number 4, castlerock.com is my campaign page. Thank you to everyone who has donated so far. I'm going to be ordering lit and yard signs this weekend. We had the ballot drawing for the order of the ballot. Unfortunately, I got last. You know, the primo position is first. But what's funny, those of you who haven't seen that ballot placement, the incumbent's name is C-A-R-Y-N, which is obviously my name as well. So it's funny, it goes Karen Johnson, C-A-R-Y-N, then Max Brooks, and then Karen Ann Harlos. I'm like, poor Max, shoved between two Karens, but this Karen doesn't want to talk to your manager, and the other one does. Chuck, we're going to get into that, but let me answer your question right off in case you have to run or something. On the agenda for this monthly, you know how I did the motion so that we're doing monthly e-meetings again? I don't know why they stopped that last term. I just think because they were done. They were done. They didn't even want anything to do with each other. Probably not as much as I didn't want anything to do with them. I don't really think they liked each other very much at the end there. But we're back to doing e-meetings again. So this Sunday, there's a meeting. I have on the agenda, discussion topic, when are we going to appoint the bylaws committee? So that is coming up. I think I have it just as discussion. I think Angela can make a decision after discussion that doesn't require a motion as to when we're going to appoint it. But if it does, it'll go to an email motion because a motion wasn't specifically noticed for this meeting. And so, yeah, there's no deadlines yet. I do realize we probably want to appoint it early, which is why I have it on the agenda, because the bylaws need a lot of work. I didn't used to think that. These past couple years, I think have made a lot of state affiliates realize their bylaws need a lot of work, and national. And I'm back on Colorado's bylaws committee because ours are pretty damn good. But I even discovered holes at seeing the controversies that other states and national has gone through. And our judicial committee needs a little tweaking. We just added it. It's pretty good. It's just, you know, some lessons learned. All righty. So I think we can get started, and probably the best place to get started would be to talk about this weekend's meeting. The notice for the meeting is up on lp.org. It's a Zoom meeting. You will need to register. The registration keeps out the spammers. I don't know why it works because, you know, people could always sign up with a throwaway email address, but it works. We haven't had like some of the grotesque spamming that we had last term. We actually had somebody come on, and I know it's because of the settings and you can avoid this in other ways, but there were some deeply disturbing spammings last term. There's somebody who played clips of a snuff film. Like, it got really, really bad. And so far we've been lucky with that. And, you know, if things get bad again, unfortunately, we'll have to go to webinar mode, but I really don't want to do that. I like having as much freedom for the members as possible. And so it's 8 Eastern, Zoom. It's scheduled for 3 hours, I think. But the motion that created the monthly e-meeting said they'd be limited to 2 hours unless there was a 2/3 vote to change it. So at the very beginning of the meeting, there'll be a motion to extend this meeting to 3 hours. But you guys won't need to be there for 3 hours because the last portion of the meeting is executive session. And we were planning about 45 minutes in executive session. So for you guys, it will still be just around 2 hours. So I'm going to pull up on another screen. Give me 1 second if I can pull it up. You know me, I'm never terribly prepared. Okay. It's because I'm always just so busy that I'm running from one thing to another. I don't have my password saved here for my OneNote. And I've got a personal OneNote and a party OneNote. I'm trying to remember the password for the party OneNote. Verify your email. Okay. Send code. Oh, I got to type in my email address. Derp. secretary@lp.org. Okay, send me the code, baby. Okay, I'm sorry, I should have did this ahead of time, but I did not. So right now I'm just rambling away. Okay, there's my code. And you guys probably think it's funny, I'm such a huge fan of OneNote, anyone who knows me, because I generally hate Microsoft products. But OneNote is a damn good product. Oh, speaking of Microsoft, during my day job, I use Windows. I'm sitting here trying to copy paste because I forgot I'm on a Mac and it's not Control, it's Command. Derp. Okay. That's the one bad thing about going between 2 different operating systems over the course of the day. Okay. Let me find the OneNote. September monthly e-meeting. Okay, and I'll share my screen once I have this up, but unfortunately that means I have to take comments down, otherwise there's not enough screen real estate. So let me share my screen, but first let me take off comments. I'll put them back up and I'll put ones on the screen if good questions come up. Remember, ask me questions if you have any. Okay, so there is the OneNote. I want to... Weird. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that. What did I just do? Okay. What? Oh, let me go back. I'm just super puzzled because this screen has changed. Not my OneNote. My streaming software used to have an option for doing screen and screen with a video, and that's gone. I'm sure they just moved it someplace and I haven't seen it, but that's okay. Well, you can hear me. You don't need to see me. So here's the OneNote for this meeting. Let's look at the agenda, and then I will... oh, here I am trying to click on my... Rather than on the program itself, I'm clicking on the... We'll go over the agenda, and then I'll pull back up the regular screen so we could talk about it. So here's what's on the agenda. It's a special meeting, so only items that are specifically noticed can be heard. So this is definitely the agenda. Nothing can get added, but things can take away. So we have some committee appointments. We have the awards committee, the convention oversight committee, and information services. However, information services is actually going to be struck because dumb me didn't read the policy manual carefully, and the chair gets to appoint information services. So she's doing that. It just won't be at this meeting because there's no vote required of the LNC for this. Second item, discuss timeline for bylaws appointments. So that's what you were interested in, Chuck. Third item is a poll request. I think I have some items in documents for the Libertarian Party of Alabama. Then a policy manual amendment for the Candidate Support Committee, a policy manual amendment regarding affiliation, candidate support. Oh, there's some motions for candidate support. We're going to adopt our goals for this term, and then that document will become fully public, which people had been very interested in. And then there's going to be potentially a motion to disaffiliate the Libertarian Party of New Mexico. I do not know if that motion will be heard. So let's go back to the other screen for a minute here, and I might switch back if we need to look at documents. Okay, and let me put the widget back up. Okay, the reason why the New Mexico motion may not be heard is, A, we did a survey of New Mexico members, and the LNC has not had a chance yet to digest that information. The survey closes tomorrow, and I'll be preparing a detailed report for the LNC on what the survey responses let us know. But secondly, if we do want to go forward with that motion, per the national bylaws, disaffiliation requires a 3/4 vote of the entire LNC. Sometimes these monthly e-meetings, the attendance isn't full. We certainly have quorum, but you can't afford for anyone to be absent when you require such a high vote threshold. It's not 3/4 of those present and voting. It's 3/4 of the entire LNC, which means it requires 13 yes votes. An abstention is functionally a no, because you need 13 affirmative yes votes. So sometimes we only have 13 people there. And if that's the case, we'll have the debate and discussion and defer a vote to email. That's if we even want to go forward with that motion. I don't want to presume what the rest of the LNC is going to want to do. So, yeah, we probably would postpone it to email ballot, JJ. We do that quite a bit when the attendance isn't where it needs to be. All right, let me pull back up the agenda, just know what we're discussing. So yeah, we have the committee appointments. The names of the appointees are, the applicants are in the OneNote. I don't really think there's much to talk about with that, but let's see. For the awards committee, it's 5 members, including up to 2 non-LNC members, which means 3 of the members have to be on the LNC. Honestly, I think that's ridiculous for the awards committee. I don't know why the mandatory member of LNC members is so many. I think the max it should be is 2. But the fact is, we don't have any LNC members that applied to be on this committee. So we're either going to have to voluntold somebody into it. I tried to voluntold Joshua Smith, because another thing about the awards committee is that each cycle we should strive to keep 2 members of past awards committee, and he was on a past awards committee. Jim Lark has applied, who's been on a past awards committee. Now he's not an LNC member. So we're gonna have to amend the policy manual if we don't have 3 LNC members that want to be on this committee. So I'm on enough committees, so I'm not volunteering for this one. The next is Convention Oversight Committee, which is 7 members with a minimum of 4 LNC members plus a minimum of 2 non-LNC members. So you see there's some minimums for 6, with the 7th position being either LNC or non-LNC. This is always a popular committee, which just surprises me because it is a lot of work. I'm already, by virtue of my position on this committee, I'm a non-voting ex officio member, as is the chair. So I could apply to be a voting member, but I did not. So that one will be no problem. And even though we're not voting on information services, just so you know, it's comprised of 2 LNC members plus up to 5 non-LNC members, all selected by the LNC chair. Okay, so that is the first item on the agenda. The second thing kind of discussed with Chuck, which is the timing for bylaws appointments. The LNC can do that appointments at any time. The 10-person plus any number of ranked alternates is entirely the appointment of the LNC. So they're not dependent upon state appointments to get started like the platform committee is. And the platform committee can't get started until after like the first of the year per our bylaws. Chuck, am I wrong? There isn't. We can appoint at any time. Can't wait for the... I've been looking at so many bylaws lately that I'm like totally forgetting what the national ones say. Let me look this up. Crap. What? I don't want to look up bylaws because that will be a million times in our bylaws. And I don't want to look up committee because other committees. Let's look that up. I think that's where it's at. Platform committee, credentials committee, bylaws committee. So the bylaws and rules committee shall consist of 10 party members appointed by the national committee no later than 12 months. So we can do it at any time, just no later than 12 months. Chuck, I'm sure Mark Tunjevich would really appreciate your thoughts on a comparison, because I know he was interested in what was different. Okay. No more than 5 of these members shall be members of the current national committee. So that's the maximum number of LNC members. There's no minimum number of LNC members for the bylaws committee. So we can appoint at any time, but no later than 1 year before, 12 months before. Okay, perfect. Then we need to appoint before May. So I think appointing at the November meeting is probably what's going to happen. If I had to have my guess, that's when we're going to appoint. That's what I'm going to suggest at in any event. Okay, LPPA poll. There's some information on that in the OneNote. Let me pull that up. To be honest with you, I haven't digested this myself. So, oh, good. You can still kind of, I'm going to leave the chat up because I think the way OneNote with the little index on the side, it still works. So if you go in the OneNote under Alabama poll, you can check out what this is. This is just a discussion item because no motion was specifically noted. It kind of fell through the cracks, so we're going to discuss it, but any voting on this is going to go to an email ballot. Next item is candidate support. Okay, let's go to new business with previous notice. Candidate support. Here are the motions that have been noticed. Move to allocate $4,000 towards Natalie Bruno's race in Oklahoma and $3,000 towards Darby Burns' race in Nevada from an available budget line. Motion allocate $2,800 toward Austin Lynch's campaign in West Virginia. While I think these two, excuse me, I didn't mean to do that. Let me close that editing program. I messed up. I do think they're adequately noticed. I do think both of those motions are deficient just technically. You can't move from an available budget line. You have to say what budget line you want it from, and the second one doesn't even mention a budget, so those are going to need to be amended. Do I have lipstick on my teeth? I'm always so paranoid. Nope. I got that mirror down here. It's specifically my do I have lipstick on my teeth mirror. Now, so when it comes to those particular motions, I posted this on the list. Todd Hagopian thanked me because he thought he was going to have to be the bad guy. I don't know. I hope the candidates will be there so we could ask questions. I don't know if there's extraordinary circumstances that are going to overcome the objections I'm going to say right now. It's not the LNC's job because we simply do not have the budget, and it's just never really been the role of the National Party to fund campaigns. It just isn't. That's the role of the state party. And that's just the way it is. And so I'm not inclined to vote to fund any campaigns. Because if we do that for 1 or 3, the allegation can easily come that we're playing favorites. We have hundreds and hundreds of campaigns going on right now. If we were to donate to every campaign, everyone would get like $2. It's just not something that the National Committee is equipped to do on an equitable basis. Now, we could have a list of objective criteria, but still, there is no evidence, except for possibly the Frontier Project, which wasn't really direct funding by the LNC. You know, you had Apollo, who was dedicated to this, who could do the analysis. There's no evidence that the small amounts that we can help local candidates has produced a win. There's no evidence of that. And unfortunately, when we get to the end of this agenda, because I skipped the executive committee portion, we're going to need legal funds because of some bad actors. And I'm going to call them bad actors. People can get ass mad at me for that. Other LNC members can get ass mad at me for that. But I have never refrained. I have never refrained from telling you guys my honest opinion. And I will always do so. No one is going to silence me, ever. It's just not going to happen. I think I proved that I wouldn't be silenced last time. Because the fact is, if I would have agreed to just not keep doing my YouTube channel and to be a good little girl and keep my mouth shut, I could have saved myself a lot of pain last year. If I had rolled over and licked the feet of my masters. But I wouldn't do it, and I won't do it now. So, not that I'm going to say anything terrible. I'm just telling you, I'm going to tell you my honest opinions, even though some people might not like it. And that is that we are facing bad actors right now. I found something deleted that you're not going to like. Deleted from what? From the appellate rules? Really? What did they delete that I'm not going to like? Listen, the LNC gets to disapprove it. Okay, let me read that. Because this is LNC business for sure. For those of you guys who don't know, has the LNC ever disapproved appellate rules? And our bylaws don't address what happens when that happens. Do they resubmit them? What's the time frame? That's another hole in our bylaws. It doesn't say what happens if we disapprove them. So let me read this out loud. Committees shall consider written petitions, responses, and evidence provided by petitioners and respondents in a meeting open to convention delegates? Just convention delegates? No. Oh, okay. Never mind. I thought you meant in general. Oh, so it's about a JC hearing and convention who may observe but not participate in the proceedings and deliberations, avoiding. Why would I? Maybe, yeah. It needs to be open to everybody. Interesting. Okay, Chuck, I'm interested in your opinion. If the LNC doesn't approve the appellate rules, what happens? Do they get to amend them? I think this is really open to interpretation. I guess the chair's going to have to make a ruling, because I agree with you. I have an issue with that, but I don't think I would vote to disapprove it just for that. So your initial thought would be the old rules stay. I guess Angela's going to have to make a ruling because this is a bylaws interpretation. But I don't think it's going to get disapproved just for that. Interesting. Very interesting. I wouldn't have caught that, to be honest with you. I just would not have caught that. I'm glad you did. I'll bring that up. But it needs to be open. Well, Chuck, we thought the JC would never have to do anything, and y'all's ass got ran ragged. So I always used to tell people running for the JC, you never have to do anything. Watch, this will be the convention where there's like 1 billion platform plank challenges. And I actually think there might be. Because you know, Chuck, that with the deletion of the abortion plank, we have doomed our party to endless floor fights over the abortion plank and motions to suspend the rules and everything else. And if anything ends up back in the platform again about abortion, I bet you there'll be a challenge. I was not, yeah, you know that. You know that. So, oof. But yeah, I'm not going to vote to disapprove it just for that one thing. But I don't like that. And I actually, I'm wondering, does that conflict though with the open meetings requirement? The open meetings requirement doesn't say all committee meetings have to be open, does it? It says LNC meetings have to be open. We've always kind of just said our general culture of transparency means that, because there's plenty of committee meetings that aren't open. Let's see here. It's open national committee. Open session. Yeah. Okay. The JC is not a committee of the National Committee. So our bylaws say the National Committee and all of its committees shall conduct all votes and actions in open session. And it gives a small carve out for executive session. The JC is not a committee of the LNC. So that would not apply to the JC. I'm seeing if there's any other provisions. There isn't. So it doesn't run afoul of the bylaws, but it runs afoul of my sensibilities, that's for sure. Why did I open this damn editing program again? Okay. Interesting. Glad you caught that. Okay, so back to the candidate funding thing. Unfortunately, we're going to be spending money on lawyers and lawsuits this term, which is going to cut into discretionary spending in other areas, such as if we wanted to help fund some candidates. I would encourage everyone to look at these campaigns and give to them. I would definitely vote on the LNC in favor of doing everything we can for these candidates, such as sending out emailers, you know, promoting them in any way that we can. But direct cash contributions, unless it's an extraordinary race where there's big evidence that our money will help them win, or it's a ballot access race, because that is an exception, or the money being asked is not for a direct contribution, but for a lawsuit that does impact ballot access, which is what happened in Pennsylvania. Because a lot of people are saying, yeah, but you gave money to 2 candidates in Pennsylvania. It was not for their campaigns. It was for lawsuits. And I do think we need to get a lot more aggressive in these ballot access type lawsuits, because we've got to start having some wins here. Speaking of that, on the LNC list, Angela posted where we're doing a letter writing campaign, and it's actual letters. You can't email. You got to actually write and put a stamp on it to write the Supreme Court and urge them to hear the Cowan versus, I think it's Raffensperger. It's a case out of Georgia. Georgia hasn't had, I think it's, I can't remember what race it is, but there's a certain race. There hasn't been a non-duopoly candidate for 85 years because of how hard it is to get on the ballot. All of those details are on the LNC list. I am going to be writing my note this weekend. Just keep it short, sweet, and polite. But if you could do that, we would greatly, greatly appreciate it. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with those candidate motions, and I'm going to feel terrible to vote no, but I think my fiduciary duty is to vote no on those. We can't possibly fund every worthy race. And something that came up in chat, which is a super good point, is that the Mises Caucus is funding some campaigns. They have their own criteria. I know, for instance, that a campaign here in Colorado got declined because it just wasn't winnable. It's a 3-way race. If it was a 2-way race, it's county sheriff here in Douglas County, they would have considered it, but they're very prudent about where they invest their money. Now, that's the job of caucuses right there. State parties and caucuses are who should be funding these individual campaigns. It cannot be the LNC. Unfortunately, it just can't. I mean, if we're going to start bringing candidate motions to the LNC, there's a bunch here in Colorado I could bring. But it's not ballot access races. So, anyway, that's the candidate motion. What's after that? Okay, policy manual amendments. I want to put those up on the screen so you guys could take a look at them. But by the way, we have a policy manual committee right now. We are going through the policy manual with an eye at making it shorter. Not shorter for just the sake of shortness. The policy manual, like any other, it's just inevitable that sometimes things get put into the policy manual because of historical controversies that are no longer relevant today. And it grows and it grows and it grows. So we've already done a first pass through the policy manual, And we have proposals that will cut it by 20 pages from just stuff that shouldn't be in the policy manual. A, because it belongs in the employee manual. Like there's all kinds of employee provisions in there that need to be in the employee manual. And things about controversies that just aren't relevant. Like there's a page and a half about what should be in LP News. In reading it, you can hear through the corridors of time the controversy of the ghosts of LNC past. You can tell by reading that policy manual provision that there were a bunch of more, I'm not saying this word to be pejorative, there were a bunch of more prags on the LNC who didn't like some of the really, like, you know, big brain, libertarian geeking out, very scholarly type articles that used to be in LP News. So they put this policy manual provision that it should be more popular level articles, blah, blah, blah. That should not be in the policy manual. That controversy no longer exists. And we shouldn't have a page and a half of that in there. That should be up to our communications director. The LNC could always direct a certain direction if they think things are going off the skids, but it doesn't need to be in there now. So there's examples like that. And to be honest with you, like, things like, there's some just excess stuff in the policy manual about the electronic meetings that doesn't need to be in there. So some of that stuff's coming out. So we, again, have proposals to reduce it by 20 pages without losing anything, in my opinion, just so you know. But now let's go to the policy manual amendments that are being proposed. And remember, the policy manual is amended all the time. That's the beauty and point of having standing rules and special rules of order. So, oh, you can't hardly, let me see if I can make this just a little small. Okay, just for now, and I'll make it bigger again. That's what she said. Okay, so first one is changes to the candidate support committee. These was proposed by Angela, and it's just changing some timing for standards that they need to develop. So, for instance, we do have a candidate support committee now. I think rather than the LNC actually voting on those, and thank you, Ty, voting on these motions, that it should be referred to the candidate support committee to make a recommendation to the LNC. Okay, so that one, nothing earth-shattering there. The next policy manual change is on affiliation. So, it is to add to the Special Rules of Order portion a new section 1.05 under Other Special Approval Matters entitled Affiliate Petitions, which would say organizations which wish to become state-level affiliates, and this is just being moved from another area, this first sentence, that's not new. If you go down here, it used to be in Special Rules of Order, Other Matters, so this first sentence is getting struck and moved to this new section, but everything from the second sentence on is new. But I'm going to read the whole section. So, organizations which wish to become state-level affiliate parties shall apply for such status on the petition form in the appendix. The LNC shall only, and this is what's new, the LNC shall only consider a petition for affiliation if A, the petitioners hold a public meeting which was open to all current national party members and immediately previous affiliate party members, if applicable, residing in the state, and which all of those members had an equal voice in adopting bylaws and electing leadership. B, reasonable notice shall be sent to all current national party members and immediately previous affiliate party members, if applicable, residing in the state, and to the LNC chair and secretary. The secretary or chair shall forward the request to all LNC members. The LNC or the executive committee may, but is not required to, publish the notice via its resources to the potential attendees. So what this is all about is, you know, anticipating that we're probably going to have to be affiliating a new New Mexico affiliate. And when this whole New Mexico controversy first came up, we immediately got a petition for affiliation. And I had candidly told the petitioners I was not going to vote yes on this petition. And it had nothing to do with who it was. The person who submitted the petition is a friend of mine. It's a nice lady. A couple other friends of mine were signatories. It has nothing to do with like not liking a group of people. What it had to do with is we got this petition 2 days after we heard of the purported disaffiliation, which I still maintain is illegitimate, from the leadership of the LPNM, which means that this group of people, they did not have bad intentions. They just cared about New Mexico, but they met amongst themselves, drew up some bylaws, said who would be at least the first year affiliate leadership, and 99.9% of the members in New Mexico didn't even know anything about an alleged disaffiliation, never mind had an opportunity to participate in the formation of a new affiliate. If we have an unfortunate situation where we have to disaffiliate and affiliate a new affiliate, it means we had an affiliate in crisis or in trouble, and that's why we had to disaffiliate. We want to start a new affiliate out on the best possible footing. I personally do not want any kind of accusations that we're just installing Mises Caucus affiliates where they're, you know, just deciding amongst themselves. I would not vote for that either. Just speaking for me, I would not. I will vote for affiliates if they've made a reasonable effort to include everyone who's interested, that it's an open meeting, that it's just not one group, even if it's with the best of intentions, doing things on their own in like ideological niches. I do not want that. And I want it to be our policy that we don't do that. So I think that policy manual amendment has pretty wide support, but I could be wrong. It might not pass. I don't know. I'm voting for it. That's all I can tell you. Okay. Adoption of goals. You'll need to go to the OneNote. I'll put it up here briefly, but we're not going to go through all these. It might be amended further at the meeting. This has been discussed a lot, but I really encourage you guys to take a look at it. So this is the entire goals document. So read through it. It's done on a SWOT analysis basis. You know, so strength, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And you can, you know, take a look at it. It's in that grid, you know, and then also you have important and urgent, important but not urgent. You know, if you guys are, any of you guys who are familiar with a SWOT analysis, you'd see how this is set up. Angela did, I think, a fantastic job with this. So, you know, there's a summary of action to do. Unfortunately, one thing that may need to be revised in this is because we didn't know the extent of some bad actors at the time. And I think that needs to be added to the threats, to be honest with you. So it might end up getting amended. Okay, so what's left on the agenda besides New Mexico? I think it's just New Mexico, but and the executive session. So, yeah. Okay, before we get to New Mexico, no, actually, let's do New Mexico first, and then we'll talk about the executive session. The executive session, the topic that's noticed for that is legal discussion, legal updates, and trademarks. Tilt this, the OneNote, which has that SWOT analysis in it, if you go to lp.org and you look for the notice of this meeting on the front page, there's a link to the OneNote that contains all of this supporting documentation that I'm going over with. I prepare those for every meeting so that members are looking at the exact same things, that that members can see the same thing that LNC members are, so that you can follow along meaningfully at meetings. The OneNote's been kind of my trademark thing. Okay, so the New Mexico disaffiliation motion, let me read it. It could get amended. It might not be heard. Again, maybe the LNC won't support this. I don't know. Okay, so the motion reads, disaffiliate the Libertarian Party of New Mexico as per bylaws article 5.6 for the cause of violating procedure and member rights, e.g. holding multiple illegal conventions with deficient notice and exclusion of members from attendance and attempting to disaffiliate without the authority of its members assembled in convention. The LNC further directs the Executive Committee to take actions necessary to begin trademark protection on our name and symbols and consider other legal action recommended by LNC Council. So that's the motion. So there's basically two parts to it that I'm going to discuss separately, the disaffiliation part and the legal action part. Obviously, the legal action part is dependent upon the disaffiliation part. In theory, this motion could be divided, I suppose. But if someone's not in favor, if we don't disaffiliate, the second part's moot. So they you know, anyway. But it's possible to do the first part without the second part. As far as the leadership of the Libertarian Party of New Mexico considers, they think they disaffiliated. I do not believe that for the reasons I've said multiple times. And let's get it straight. I am not claiming that state parties don't have the right to disaffiliate. They do. But they have to do it in accordance with their own bylaws and protecting their own members' rights. Their bylaws do not give their state board the ability to unilaterally disaffiliate. It requires a vote of delegates in a properly called convention. Their bylaws allow them to call special conventions. So if they want to disaffiliate, they don't have to wait till their next annual convention. They just got to give 30 days notice. They could have done it already validly. It's my personal opinion that the leadership took this upon themselves because they know that the membership doesn't want this. So it's just a gross violation of member rights. Their central committee is limited. The power is limited in their bylaws. It does not include disaffiliation. So this is just a small group of people that have decided that they're going to take away something that members have paid into, which was a state party that is affiliated with the national party without their consent at all. And that is just a disgusting violation of member rights. And political elitism by people on a board who think they are the party. They are not. The members are. I say the same thing about the LNC. The LNC is not the party. Which is why I had no problem last term when I despised the LNC from continuing to recruit people to the party. This is going to become relevant in a moment, even more so when we talk about the executive session items. But you'll be a lot happier if you remember that the LNC is not the party, your state board is not the party, because there's going to be times when you hate your state board. I've been there in Colorado, and I still recruited members because I'm in it for the party. Like, leadership can get too big for their britches, but they ain't the party. They never will be. They never were. And that holds true for New Mexico. That holds true nationally. That holds true in Colorado. That holds true in your state or your county or whatever. You're the party, not the leadership. And all leadership would do well to remember that. Okay. Sorry, I got on my soapbox there for a second because it just really bugs me the way some, like, power in the Libertarian Party is so pathetic to begin with that for people to act like they're big deals, like because they have a title. What's the joke? You go to a Libertarian Party meeting and you leave with a title. Anyone can do it. Needs to drink some more. I only had a tiny bit of champagne, so I'm nursing this because I'm very deficient. Speaking of deficient, I'm deficient in alcohol. So there definitely is grounds for disaffiliation. But just because there's grounds doesn't mean we have to do it. And perhaps the rest of the LNC thinks they already are disaffiliated. I don't think that's their opinion, though. I think it's pretty clear that they're not. But if you have a board that won't let members have a voice and are just at illegal conventions extending their own terms of office. I mean, there's very little you can do with that but disaffiliate. Now, members in New Mexico can sue, not us. They can sue the Libertarian Party of New Mexico. They could file under a writ of mandamus, or mandamus, however you pronounce that. You know me and my pronunciations. There's a New Mexico statute that I believe is directly on point, and I actually think that that board of directors could be personally liable, and I doubt they have E&O insurance. But they have grossly breached their fiduciary duty. And yes, there is money involved. Their dues are the highest in the country. Their dues are $65 a year. That's a lot for one of the poorer states in the union. So, you know, nobody's probably going to sue, but an LPNM member, or it can, if they wanted to. And I tell you honestly, I wish they would. The statute that might allow it is in a past one note. Oh, JJ, interestingly though, remember when you and I were talking about whether or not there can be unalterable provisions and bylaws? So I finally went and read those cases that were cited in that AIP Parliamentary Opinions book that you referred me to. And a writ of mandamus is in one of those opinions that deals with a dispute as to who's the legitimate chair. Now, this was in the 1800s of this women's society. Boy, it was such a catfight between these two women who were both claiming to be chair. But it was under mandamus. It was under mandamus and quo warranty or something like that. But it was really, really interesting. It was this, I think, Georgia Ladies Club or something in 1876. I think it was Mrs. Johnson and Mrs. Goodman, I think, were the two ladies. But very, very interesting. Okay, so that's the first part of the motion. The second part of the motion is directing the executive committee to explore trademark issues with our council. Now, let me get something up right off the bat here. Even Stefan Kinsella will tell you, trademark is not necessarily intellectual property. That's not always necessarily the concept or the grounding principle behind trademark. The grounding principle behind trademark is fraud and deceiving, quote unquote, consumers. And it's perfectly libertarian to be opposed to fraud and purposeful deception of the market. So I have absolutely no problem with trademark in this circumstance. And I am anti-IP. But let's even pretend that there is some IP involved here. For instance, the chicken. I don't think anyone even knows what the chicken is. They could have it. Like, can we pay them to take the chicken? But even if there was IP involved. So there's two issues here. One is the name Libertarian Party, and the other is our symbols, like that damn chicken. I have to be honest with you, I personally don't care about the chicken. But this isn't about what I think personally. So I'm personally anti-IP. But the party isn't. The party has never put in its platform that they're anti-IP. And past LNCs have filed copyrights and trademarks. As an officer of this party, I have a fiduciary duty to protect what the party believes is its property and its rights, even if I don't agree it's property. That is my duty as an officer. So even if this was strictly IP, I would be in favor of it because I have to execute my duties of office. However, trademark is, in this case, is not about IP, and I have absolutely no moral compunction. It's in our bylaws that if you're an affiliate, by virtue of your affiliation, that's what grants you the right to use the name Libertarian Party in your name. Absent your affiliation, fly, be free, go. But if you want to go, you're leaving the name. The chicken, I really don't care, but I have a duty as an officer to protect that damn chicken. So to me, it's about the name. And it's in the bylaws. Now, some people will say it wasn't in the bylaws at the time that the Libertarian Party of New Mexico affiliated. True. But it's been in the bylaws for 34 years, I think. And there is a legal doctrine known as laches or estoppel. Every single affiliate is aware and that delegates in convention imposed this requirement on affiliates. And if they objected, they could have left back then. If you don't exercise your rights after a certain passage of time and exchange of value, you are estopped. So that's a dumb argument. I know Tom Knapp thinks he's an attorney, but he's not. He's a great editorial writer, a great polemicist, but he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about on this issue. Now, that doesn't mean a court's going to rule in our favor, but it does mean we have a very strong legal leg. But courts rule shitty all the time. So who knows, you know, court is a crapshoot. But we are perfectly within our legal rights. It is true that the LP did not file its trademark until, crap, when was it? Was it 1999? It's been several decades. About halfway through the party's history. Let's just round it. It doesn't matter. You don't have to file to you have to file an order. It's like copyright. When you write something, and I don't believe in copyright, but we're just talking about the law here, you have an automatic copyright in your writings. You just can't sue anyone over it until you file formally your copyright. But if you can prove when you first wrote it, that's you can sue for infringing use prior to your actual formal filing of the copyright. But filing of the copyright is what allows you to proceed in suit. It's almost like in Florida, God, I'm going to make an analogy here that might be going really off in a rabbit trail, but if you're dealing with your insurance company and they treat you in bad faith, there's statutory bad faith and there's common law bad faith. Florida, it's statutory bad faith. You cannot proceed against your insurance company for bad faith they've already done until you file something called a civil remedy notice and give them 60 days to cure. It doesn't mean that they didn't commit bad faith and you didn't have a right before you filed that, like they violated the contract. But that's just the procedural requirements before you can file a bad faith suit in Florida. Before you can file a trademark suit, and I'm not an attorney, by the way, I'm telling you the law as I understand it, but get away from me, Bar Association. I'm not practicing law. I'm just shooting off my mouth here. So talk to an attorney if you got a trademark or copyright suit. This is as I understand it. I'm not an intellectual property paralegal either. I lost my train of thought. So we filed our trademark, but whatever. It doesn't matter that it was past the time that we used it. We've been using it, and it said in the trademark application. The trademark application, there's a reason why they ask you this. It asks you, when was your first commercial use of the symbol or name or whatever it is? And we put it down accurately as January 1972, because that's when the name of the party was chosen. As far as I know, there were no quote-unquote proto-affiliates using that name prior to January 72. But one thing I can tell you for sure is that the Libertarian Party of New Mexico wasn't. And they were affiliated in November, 10 months after the National Party was using the name. And while I do not have a copy of the affiliation form, the petition for affiliation that they filled out in November of 1972, I do have forms from that time period. It was a standard form. And that form says you get to use the name Libertarian Party. So there is no question here we've got a strong case. And you know, whether we win or not's another matter. So if we disaffiliate or the LNC thinks they have disaffiliated, we need to take action to protect our name so that the new affiliate will be the Libertarian Party of New Mexico. If I have to give a prediction, I bet you the Lucchini group is going to end up going with Steve Sheets' little outfit of the Keystone Party. Good. Good luck with that. I don't care what you call yourself when you're not the Libertarian Party anymore. You're not my problem or my business. So then the second issue that comes up, and on this, a lot of the people who are howling and screaming are right. Ballot access goes with the Lucchini group. They're the group that earned it. They retain their ballot access. A new group in New Mexico will have to regain ballot access. Ballot access in New Mexico is not difficult. So I forgot the number of signatures. It's easily doable. Do we want to spend money on this? No. Blame the bad acting board, because this isn't something that we wanted. I wanted to avoid disaffiliation at all costs. I think it's terrible. I don't like it, but sometimes it's necessary. But I was completely against it and was not looking for it to come to this pass. But right now, the members in New Mexico don't have a party that they can participate in. It's a social club, which is so ironic. Because as a former, well, not former, I'm still a member of the Radical Caucus, though that's not my primary caucus right now. The Mises Caucus quite obviously is, but I'm still a member of the Radical Caucus. But I remember, you know, conventions for the Radical Caucus, you know, they got a couple seats, but, you know, generally didn't go our way. And we ended up with Bake the Cake, and we ended up with the Council on Foreign Relations fucking Bill Weld. And what did we get told by the Andy Craigs and stuff of the world? Suck it up, Buttercup. You got to be a team player. You win some, you lose some. Funny they're not singing that song now. Apparently, those things only hold true when they're the winners. The minute the tables are turned and a different faction of the party gains control, all of a sudden they lay the biggest deuce in the world in their diapers. Who wants a social club now? See the way some of these bad actors are acting? I think what had been told to radicals for years was a big steaming pile of gaslittery and projection. So that explains then the trademark thing with New Mexico. I think we have a very, very, very strong case. And it's not only going to cost us money, it's going to cost Lucchini money. I would highly advise him to talk to an attorney and cut bait now. But anyway, but there's other potential trademark issues that I can't get into in great detail because it's still subject, it's not public stuff. We're still getting advised by LNC counsel. To answer Chuck's question, Oliver Hall is still LNC counsel, but we also have trademark counsel. Primary advice is coming from Oliver Hall, but we do have trademark counsel. We have trademark counsel because, funny enough, all the people who are screaming now that, oh, I can't believe you're going to protect your trademark, intellectual property, they had absolutely no problem. A lot of people might not realize this, though it's somewhat public knowledge. There's a Trumpster group that tried to co-opt the Libertarian Party name in Virginia, and they're going by the Libertarian Party of Tidewater. And no one had a problem with us going after them for trademark. Are you a hypocrite? Is trademark only appropriate when it's people you don't like? Or is it just something that's the right thing to do? I'm being consistent. But as some of you may know, some of the sore losers from convention, and I'm going to call it that because it's been it's been 5 months. It's been 5 months, And already people who are used to being in charge can't stand that they're not in charge anymore. They're not happy with some decisions of the LNC. So they're trying to start a competing, I don't even know if you could call it a national party because they want only affiliates as members, but whatever. They're trying to co-opt the Libertarian Party name. And to the extent that they actually are doing that, and we have a case, I don't know, we haven't had full advice of counsel, we will go after them with everything we can. Because it's bullshit. You want to know how many times in the 50-year history of this party people have been unhappy with the results of a convention? I cannot imagine the type of narcissistic egomania that would say, you know what? If I can't be in charge and if I disagree, I'm going to burn down or attempt to 50 years worth of work, millions of volunteer hours, millions of dollars. I cannot imagine the overly inflated sense of one's importance that it takes to do that. This is my opinion. It's not necessarily the opinion of the LNC. But I have zero respect for that. If you want to go off and do your own thing, go off and do your own thing. Sever the cord. Don't try to like go, well, I'm going to ride on the coattails of people who did not consent to this. You want to go do the National Keystone Party? Knock yourself out. But like wanting to basically overturn the results of a convention you don't like through like this parallel thing, like just, it's the ultimate in narcissism. And for people to go, oh, well, you know, it's just their own thing. What do you even care? Whatever. Because they're actively trying to destroy the current national party. And you want war, you'll get war. People go, what are you attacking other liberty people for? They're attacking us. If someone wants to go start another liberty party, like again, the Keystone Party, you don't ever see me attacking them or saying, I say good luck. Hopefully your fights for ballot access will help us too. I think Steve Sheets, if he was unhappy, he did the right thing. He completely severed ties. Like he didn't try to hold on to the name. He didn't try to hold on to the assets. He's starting his own thing. I don't think it's going to succeed, and I don't agree with his assessment of the party, but I respect the fact that he actually said, okay, I'm going to go do my own thing, and he actually did. That took courage. What's going on with Nick Sarwark, and unfortunately, you know, I know George Philly says he's just reporting on it. Okay, I don't think he's just reporting on it. I think he's an instigator and probably a big donor to it. And I have zero respect for that. But that's okay. It's the feeling's probably mutual. I can tell you, if I wanted to go off and do my own thing, I'd do like Steve Sheets. Because that is a move that's the way to do that sort of thing and maintain some integrity. But, so that leads to an article that I wrote. So I would encourage you to go take a look at it at Substack. You can see our friends there on the cover with the sentence that I think he regrets saying, which is the LP belongs to who shows up. And it's funny, that's what the Prags were saying as long as it was them who showed up. But the minute it stopped being them who showed up, all of a sudden, they're singing a different tune. So the name of this article is Libertarian Rage-Poaching, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Flounce. So, I'm going to read this and discuss it. Subtitle: You can have a Ford in any color you want, as long as it's black. The way some people are acting, you would not think that they lost a convention, as many others before them have and survived just fine. It is the literal Nazi zombie apocalypse, and they are legend. I, for one, having been a longtime radical and on the losing end of many a convention, CFR Bill Weld anyone, and proposition, and being told how we radicals just want a social club, this is how politics work, and organize better. When a bunch of us sick of the old regime in the Libertarian Party did just that, the wails and lamentations were worthy of a good old Conan the Barbarian town pillage. Some of these folks only mean that if their side wins. It seems that what is sauce for the goose is not sauce for the gander when it's a particular group's goose being cooked. It reminds me very much ironically of all of the love and unity posting by Hillary Clinton sycophants about how we all just need to come together when she was believed to have winning in the bag, to shrieks of "not my president" when she didn't win. It's no different from singing "the party is who shows up," and the tune changes dramatically when it isn't your supporters that show up. Hypocrisy and sour grapes, yum. How you react in these cases is the true measure of a man, and some men are not measuring up very well. Subtitle: So you don't like the LNC and some of its decisions? Well, I wouldn't know anything about that. When it comes to truly, from the core of your being, disliking a current iteration of the LNC, and thinking that a chunk of them are not just bad LNC members, but of truly bad character, I think I have a claim to have been there and done that. And not only that, I also found myself to be a rallying point for many people who felt likewise. There was a lot of rage and unrest. What did I do? Well, one thing I did was to act consistently with the idea that this is a party I love, that it's worth fighting for, and that the party is the members and not the temporary leadership. It wasn't about me. Ultimately, it was about the party. And I could honor and preserve the work of hundreds of thousands of people who spent millions of hours and dollars before me by sticking it through and playing within the rules, or I could rage quit, taking as much of it out with me as I went. The choice was mine. I chose consistent with my priority being liberty in the party and not my own feelings, title chasing, or revenge. I continued to encourage people to join, stay joined, contribute monthly if already joined, and work to change what they didn't like. You know, the rules we all agreed to, and don't expect people to try to sabotage if they don't get their way after one convention. This isn't an enforceable expectation, of course, but it is one that people of good faith and love for the common cause that they all put so much time into have a moral right to expect. I lived up to that expectation. Last subtitle: You've heard of rage quitting. Meet its ugly cankled sister, rage poaching. Rage quitting is bad enough. Rage poaching is when you can't just leave alone but have to drag as many with you as you can to feed your narcissistic self-importance. Now, of course, no one belongs to anyone else and can go where they wish in the same way that no one owns anyone else's vote. But I think we all know malicious poaching when we see it by a particularly ambitious person or persons who prey on the worst of malcontents and uses them to try to harm the group that dared to spurn them. This is the institutional equivalent of leaving a boiling bunny on the communal stove. It isn't just leaving and starting your own thing. It is leaving and starting your own pseudo thing, as the poacher is compelled to take pieces with them like a vandal and to forever remain a hanger-on until that group who did not see them for their greatness pays the price, I tell you. I miss the days of the good old goodbye cruel political party flounce. It was far better than the current if I can't have you, no one else can. There's nothing wrong with leaving. There is nothing wrong with discovering that you no longer align with a group and starting something truly fresh and original. There is something wrong with everything I described above, and it is the sign of deeply malignant personalities. Never confuse the results of a convention or the composition of a current LNC with the party. It and they are not. They are not now, were not in the past, and never will be. The party is who shows up, and that can change. And mature people who are healthy to an organization learn to plan, inspire, lead, and change. They know they will win some and lose some, and that we all have a gentleman's agreement not to live under the narcissistic threat to blow everything up when they don't get their way. Mark such men and steer far away. This too shall pass. And that is my opinion of the people who are actively working to destroy the Libertarian Party right now. I think they are deeply malignant, narcissistic personalities. Did I stutter? Have I made my opinion clear? I believe I have. And I believe I am coming from a place of experience because I was damaged badly by the last LNC. I could have sought revenge. I could have inspired all kinds of people to quit, but instead, I went from convention to convention recruiting. On the weekend, I learned, even though the opinion wasn't out yet, I learned through back channels, somebody on the JC leaked it, just so you know, what the decision was going to be. And I was devastated. So that was a Saturday night. But that Sunday, overnight, actually, my ass still drove to New York. And that next day, I was at the New York convention imploring people to join the party. After I knew the backstabbing was complete from the LNC. I'm not claiming anything with... Listen, it's over and done with. It's over and done with. But most people, the people on my show realize how deeply, deeply damaging that whole thing was. And I hope a couple years from now, those LNC members will look back and think, is it worth it? Because I'm still dealing with the emotional effects of what happened. And remember, Richard Longstreth was told, you know, she's just going to get reelected. And he goes, I don't care. When you have an LNC that doesn't care about the delegates, you get a convention like we just had. The roosters came home to roost. I guess roosters don't roost. The chickens came home to roost. But anyway, you're seeking to destroy the party. There's something wrong with you. Instead, if you don't like what happened, you should be working to organize better at the next convention. Now, there does come a time where maybe, let's say we have 3, 4, 5 conventions where things just have gone, in your opinion, completely south. Well, then maybe these types of actions would be justified. But 5 months after a convention you don't like, you're already going, I'm gonna start a new national party. What a baby. Grow up, Nick. But anyway, I think I've said my opinion on this, and it's my own opinion. I don't speak for anybody on the LNC. But I can tell you, as long as I have breath, I'll fight that. The unstoppable force just met the immovable object. But to do a parallel, I think we can vary, even though, like, I didn't agree with the Republican Party before, I think particularly if Trump wins again, he runs and wins again, that, okay, those people in the Republican Party who aren't into this new republicanism as evidenced by Trump, stuck it out since 2016, okay, they gave it the good old try. It wasn't 5 months after a convention. So, you know, everyone's got to make their own choices. But if you think you're like just momentary dissatisfaction is worth dismantling 50 years worth of work, then we're better off without you. Because this is a long haul team game. And we should have some kind of moral obligation to each other to understand this is just how it works. You shouldn't get involved with an organization if you're not prepared to operate under the rules that we're under. That means you're not always going to win. It means sometimes you're going to be unjustly removed from an LNC. If anyone, and I think I'm the person to be saying this, because if anyone had cause to say, fuck you and walk away, it was me. And I didn't, and I won't. I think I've proven a lot in the past year. You might not like me, you still might not support me, but I think at some level you got to respect the fact that I kept my head held up high and I lived true to every single principle I said I did. That I wasn't going to quit, that the party wasn't about me, and that I would always work to grow the party, even if I didn't like the particular leadership at the time. I certainly never would have gone around telling people to withdraw their support. Because I can tell you, when I'm done, if I'm ever done with this party, I'm not going to be like the bitter atheist, like the bitter ex-Christian turned atheist who all they do is spend the rest of their days taking pot shots at the church. Like, dude, if I'm done with this party, I got other things to do. I won't even think about you anymore. You know? Life is too valuable for that. But anyway, so that's what's going on. I'm just going to give it a few more minutes to see if anyone has any questions. And I'd be glad to answer them. And yeah, Chuck said Mises out-organized their opposition. I know some people have said, well, you know, it's easy to do in the party. In one sense, yes. Our rules are set up that a very organized group can have the results that Mises had. But the fact is, this was pretty unprecedented. And if it's that easy, why didn't the Prags do it? The fact is, it was a very long game that the Mises had. And you've got to give, Mises Caucus had, you've got to give them credit. Like, they had to systematically, and remember, this didn't just start 2 years ago. They started organizing in 2018. So this was a 4-year process. And they had to train people up. They had to get them involved in local affiliates, pay dues to local affiliates, prove themselves in local affiliates, get elected at state conventions, then pay thousands of dollars to haul their ass to Reno. Like, it wasn't like you just slap $5 on the table in no time. They worked their ass off for this. So in some way, the rules are easy in that if you're willing to work hard and organize, you could have great success. So the rules are easy for that. But it's not easy for just anyone. You do have to put in the work locally to get to where they got to. I mean, honestly, you have to give it up to them. And I was involved with organizing with them. Probably, you know, I was always in the Facebook group and friendly with them, but I wasn't privy to any internal stuff. I'm still not privy to a lot of internal stuff because I'm not in leadership of the caucus. It was pretty much after my removal, and let me tell you, those guys are freaking organized. But there's no reason anyone else couldn't have done this. There's no reason that the radical caucus can't do this, but they haven't. They haven't inspired people. But anyone can do it. I remember back when so a lot of you know that I owned a very large theology debate forum for many years. But what people don't know is that I started out on a different one. Oh my God, I have such a pattern in my life. You want to laugh? I think I just got the whistleblower gene. So I used to be a moderator at a different theology forum, and we uncovered lying and corruption by the owner and exposed it and got thrown out. But you want to know what? That was his private property. I wasn't even a libertarian then, and I was kind of like, well, it's your forum. We showed you for the liar that you are. If people want to stay there, that's their business. And what did we do? We went off and started our own. And we really did just start our own and didn't look back. I don't even know where I was going with this now, because I forgot about that whole scandal at that other forum where somebody anonymous to other people, but obviously someone known to me, passed me evidence of wrongdoing. And I was, you know me, once I know there's wrongdoing, I'm like, no, baby doll, not today, Satan. So I forgot where I was going with this, but that was a long time ago. All right, guys. Yeah, and I think you're right, J.J. Lucchini may have just handed New Mexico to the Mises Caucus. Golf clap. And the funny thing is, he started this whole thing because he was scared. You know, it's often in life, if you live your life in fear of something happening, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Your actions on trying to prevent something from happening actually ironically turn out to be the reason the thing you feared happened, where if you didn't act in fear and try to do all these draconian moves, it probably never would have happened. Prior to all this, there was not a big Mises presence in New Mexico. New Mexico was not going to become a Mises state. But Lucchini's actions motivated people that probably never would have gotten motivated. Just like, you want to know who you can thank, if you thank is the word you want to put to it. I mean, there were multiple catalysts along the way, so I think we can point to multiple ones. But the very first catalyst for what set up what happened this past convention was Nick Sarwark shooting his mouth off on Twitter, attacking other libertarians that were very popular, attacking Tom Woods, attacking Dave Smith, attacking the Mises Institute. That's what started all this. If Nick hadn't done that, we would not be where we are today. And that's an absolute fact. That was the genesis. And I also believe, and again, some people might think I'm being very self-important here, but I think I'm addressing it soberly. I think we would not have had the amount of success we had this convention, but for what the LNC did to me. So that's who you can thank. You can thank Nick Sarwark, and you can thank those bad actors on the LNC last term for what happened this convention. Now, I think there was bound to be a flashpoint this year. It just happened to be me. I'm not claiming there's anything special about me. It's like right place, right time, right personality, for the moment that everything lined up. But it wouldn't have happened without all that hard work that Mike Heiss put in. He put in the hard work, and then it was just waiting for the opportunity that was bound to happen, and it just happened to align with me to be a really big flashpoint. I can't tell you how many people told me that they joined the party just to make sure I was vindicated. A lot of people went to convention just to make sure I was vindicated. What they did pissed a lot of people off. Thank you, I guess. And all the way back to Nick refusing to condemn the violent riots, the mostly peaceful riots, calling the Covington kid a racist, all that crap. It pissed people off. And Lucchini's fear and tyrannitarian actions probably did just hand New Mexico to the Mises Caucus. I hope some other states that aren't Mises states, they learn the lesson from this. Don't be overreacting and doing these knee-jerk things in fear. And you're fearing other libertarians? What, you're fearing losing a title or power? Libertarian Party power? It's like O'Doul's, okay? It's work. And very, very little prestige. Okay, everyone. I'm going to get going. I'm glad you spent this evening with me, and I forgot to whore for super chats. Oh, there's no super chats in Twitch. So I didn't forget to whore for super chats. I'm going to be uploading this to Facebook immediately after here, and I still have to record my radio show. Wow, I'm going to be up late. All right, everyone, have a good night, and I hope to see you at the LNC meeting this Sunday. Bye-bye.
what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business, not because they want to